So today's shloka is the 40th shloka of the 3rd chapter. Indriyani mano buddhihi asyadhisthanamuchyate etairvimohayatyesha jnanamavritya dehinam Indriyani mano buddhihi asyadhisthanamuchyate etairvimohayatyesha jnanamavritya dehinam Indriyani mano buddhihi asyadhisthanamuchyate etairvimohayatyesha jnanamavritya dehinam. Please recite after me. Indriyani mano buddhihi
Indriyani manobuddhi
asyadhisthanamuchyate
Adhisthanamuchyate
etairvimohayatyesha
Vimohayatyesha
jnanamavritya dehinam
Jnanamavritya dehinam
Indriyani mano buddhihi
Indriyani manobuddhi
asyadhisthanamuchyate
Adhisthanamuchyate
etairvimohayatyesha
Etairvimohayatyesha
jnanamavritya dehinam
Jnanamavritya dehinam
Indriyani mano buddhihi
Indriyani manobuddhi
asyadhisthanamuchyate
Adhisthanamuchyate
etairvimohayatyesha
Etairvimohayatyesha
jnanamavritya dehinam.
Jnanamavritya dehinam.
Word for word meaning and translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Indriyani, the senses, manaha, the mind, buddhihi, the intelligence, asya, of this lust, adhishthanam, sitting place, uchyate, is called, etaihi, by all this, vimohayati, bewilders, eshaha, this lust, jnanam, knowledge, avritya, covering, dehinam, of the embodied. Translation: the senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him.
bewildered him.
Hmm. So here the Lord is identifying where does this lust reside. We know that lust is our eternal enemy. We've been reading the Lord's instructions on that. So now the Lord is giving us an identification of the problem as well as a solution in the upcoming shlokas. So the Lord is saying this lust resides where? All of your sense organs are attracted to sense objects. So one place in which this lust resides is in the form of temptation when you see things or when you smell things or when you hear things or when you touch things, you get attracted to things. So that is one place where lust resides. The second place where lust resides is one's own mind. Mind is where the memory is. So when the sense objects sense something or are attracted to something, the mind immediately realizes that it had a prior experience that caused that particular Jivatma to experience so-called happiness. So the mind reminds you, oh, if I take that gulab jamun, I'll be very happy. That happiness is very momentary. But that is the function of the mind. So lust also resides in the mind by reminding you of past experiences that brought you some happiness. Not bliss. Bliss is on the spiritual platform. Happiness is on the material platform. And then the third place in which lust resides, Lord Krishna is saying, is one's own intelligence. So what happens when you see a nice big bowl of gulab jamun? Your mind reminds you that you enjoyed gulab jamun before. And then the intelligence tells you, why don't you go ahead and act? What is the problem? You can have gulab jamun. So the intelligence is the discriminatory power. You lose your discriminatory power when the temptation is overwhelming. So let us say you are diabetic and you are not allowed to eat gulab jamun. But your mind is insisting, but you enjoyed it. And your intelligence is saying, but this is only one time. It'll not hurt me if I have it just this once. So just this once happens multiple times. And that way your lust becomes strengthened. So the Lord is saying, our senses, our mind, and our intelligence are the sitting places of this lust, which means they are comfortably sitting there. And through this, the Lord is saying, your real knowledge gets covered. And when your real knowledge gets covered, you get bewildered. So if you recall from chapter 2, in the shlokas towards the end, I think 2.54 and 2.55, if I'm not mistaken, where the Lord talks about how lust leads to anger, anger leads to delusion, delusion leads to bewilderment, bewilderment leads to a contamination of intelligence, and when intelligence is contaminated, you have to fall down. So that same theme is just being repeated here, but in the context of where do you find this enemy? So the enemy can be found in the senses, in the mind, and the intelligence. That's where they are residing. And they are causing you to not understand what is real and what is Maya. And because of that, they bewilder the Jivatma. They force you to make decisions. Remember, what is Arjuna's question? What causes us to do things even though we don't want to do it? What compels us to do things even though our judgment says we shouldn't do it? So in response to that question, Krishna is letting Arjuna know this is where the enemy resides. And then in the future shlokas next week, we will see Krishna's advice on what we should do about it.